we'll be on FaceTime for hours, and he'll be like, "You just said the F word." I'm like, "No, it's literally in your head." And
Oh, he's
he,
trying to break you in a
he
sense.
he's trying to. I know he's trying to break me. And Kale, if you're watching this, I know what you're doing. You're not slick.
Hey, what's up? This is Gabe from Belligerence, based out of Austin, Texas, and you're tuned in to the Scoped Exposure Podcast.
We're recording. Do you have your bev for the episode?
I do. I almost was gonna show up with no beverage just to make you upset.
Just to spite me?
Just to spite you. I'm not gonna lie, but I did. I actually got water. I got a crazy amount of water right here. So
okay, well that's good.
We're chilling.
Well, thank you everyone for tuning in. This is another episode of the Scoped Exposure Podcast. This is depending when this comes out, but this is the very first recording for season 2. We got the new mic set up. Yeah, let's give a little clap.
Season 2.
Yeah, and not only the first episode that we're recording, so that's a new thing. A new thing as well is having Anaiah, who was a guest for episode 35, I believe it was. But you're the first returning guest on the podcast, so I'm very excited for that as well.
Holy cow, you remember the actual episode, and do you keep up with all the episodes? Obviously you do them all, but I'm sure you do so many. It's just
yeah, it's pretty crazy that we're in 3 digits now, but normally I have a pretty good photographic memory where I can be like, okay, Pack Sun from Knock Loose episode 75. And then I can go to the next person. But yeah, maybe that's a quiz kind of thing that people can throw me at.
That is, I could imagine doing that many interviews. It's just I'd get jumbled up and I wouldn't even know where to. I'd be like, oh, I forgot that we spoke. But I just have a terrible memory.
I forgot that we spent an hour on Zoom together.
We spent an hour on Zoom, but that's once you get to the hundreds of doing, I can imagine which are you at that point by now?
Yeah, so we hit 100 episodes for season 1. I don't know if this will be 101, 102, one of those.
Right.
I have a few guests that I'm kind of working through over the next few weeks, and I know some people like to do an intro of hey, this is episode blah blah blah, but sometimes it's nice to have that flexibility to move things around. So,
dude, I don't think I know 100 people enough to do an interview with that many people.
Yeah. Well, I think of someone like Joe Rogan who's into 1,600 episodes. I'm like, that's a guy who could be like, I don't remember talking to you. Oh, we did a 3-hour podcast? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, that's different. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's gnarly though. And that fool is crazy. So
yeah. He's a little yeah. It's funny. Sometimes I bring up Joe Rogan on the podcast and some people are just so he is the podcast, he's the one that was doing it for the longest time, but he's got some sus ideas at times for sure.
Oh, I don't mess with that fool. So yeah, we could totally skip on.
Yeah, let's just skip Joe. Anaiah, I'm really excited to be chatting with you. Like I said, we had you on episode 35. That was a while ago, and there's definitely points that we touched on then that were very, I guess, crucial to the timing of that podcast. And now we can kind of there have been questions that I wanted to ask you outside of just hardcore and maybe political things as well. So I'm very excited to be about that.
Absolutely, which I would love to. I don't always want to talk about those things either. So
yeah, exactly.
Totally.
Yeah. For the few folks at home who don't know who you are, do you want to just give a proper intro of the bands you're a part of and how you're known in punk heavy music?
All right. Yeah. Well, currently, since the last time we spoke, I was in. We don't have to talk about that, but I was in a couple more bands. But right now, I play in a band called Dare. I play drums for a band called Dare, and then I sing in a band called ZULU. And I also write the ZULU music. So
yes, yeah.
For folks that don't know.
Yeah, this is exciting because most of the time, a lot of the first time guests, we have a very similar setup to introduce yourself, kind of do your hardcore origin, but because there is a podcast episode where we've covered a lot of that. People can go and listen to that, and then this is kind of the sequel, part 2, if anything. So
people,
yeah. So
sorry, what were you saying?
Oh, I was just gonna say, for the folks at home, if you want to learn more as far as the origin of how Anaiah got into heavy music, there's a past podcast you can look up. But I want to dive right in and start chatting and reflecting on some of the things that we talked about last time. Before we do that, though, we got to do the bev check. You were, I don't know if I'll keep it in, but you were trying to throw the first episode, and you were like trying to throw off that whole portion of the show. But tell the folks at home. Tell the folks at home what you're drinking.
I got water, yo. I got water, and it's important. I'll show it. I got it in a blue.
You gotta always show it.
I got it in a blue flask. It's a Golf Wang flask.
What's the?
Well, not flask, but
a water bottle.
Golf Wang, like water bottle.
Yeah.
I don't know why I said flask. It's just a water bottle. It's an analogy. It's an analogy.
Sure. What's the cat on the side there?
It's Golf Wang, like Tyler the Creator's brand.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah, it's his brand. Yeah.
I think a water bottle is only as good as how many stickers and little decals that you can add to it. So,
see, now here's the thing. I've had so many water bottles in my day, and I've lost so many, and I put stickers on so many water bottles. So I'm like, and I put some cool stickers on some of those past water bottles.
Sure.
Like, this one I'm gonna not do it because it's just like, okay, two things. If you put a vinyl sticker on the water bottle, it lasts. But sometimes you'll put a sticker that ends up being really janky and like flakes off because of the the water.
Yeah.
Especially when you have a cold beverage in it, dude. And that sucks because I'm like, oh man, like. But you got to find the right stickers. Obviously, the vinyl stickers will be the best in that case. But no, I've had some cool stickers. I don't know why I put them on a water bottle. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna have this forever, and then I lose it at a show, or
yeah,
I leave it somewhere skating or whatever. So
yeah. I think stickers are such like a not an essential thing, but it's so expected if you order like a record from a band, like to have some little memorabilia like that. But like you said, like it's like unless someone wants to commit to putting it on their laptop, or they have like a guitar case that they're putting stickers on.
Right.
Yeah, like this water bottle here, it's just like anything I get my hands on, whether it's like a band thing or like we got like a Yeti sticker, like whatever it is, it's a mess. Kind of
no, it's cool, but sometimes I'll have like the coolest stickers, and then I'm like, oh, I don't want to overlap it, but then I want it to overlap, and
right,
it's a commitment thing, yo. Honestly, when it comes to the stickers, but I do like stickers, so
yeah. So shout out to the stickers. For my bev, I was curious how I was going to check this because a big goal of mine for season 2 is getting bev sponsorships. So that could be anything from like sparkling water to coffee shit. And I'm hoping maybe this is the thing to fully bring the company over because they love seeing when I actually pour the drink on the podcast. So I'm going to show it here. So this is a brand called Say When. It's like their dirty chai mix. A dirty chai is like my favorite type of coffee that isn't just black coffee. So all it is, it's like a 1-to-1 mix. So I'm doing an iced one. So I'm just pouring that there. What are you going to say?
See, I don't know a thing about coffee. I don't drink coffee. So when I hear people talk about coffee, I'm just like, oh, that's like not in a bad way. Not like, oh, I'm not being like, but like, I just know absolutely nothing. And people like will go into like the brews or like the whatever, the beans that are used or whatever. I'm just like, dude, I am so like, it's good. I didn't realize how intricate it got.
Yeah, like I don't know. I'm not as crazy, and this is just the
wow,
the
you got the
money
whole
shot kind
setup.
of pour. Yeah, I'm like, should I run this to the?
What milk is that?
Oh, it's Earth Zone. It's like it's a brand here in Canada, but it's it's our go-to. It's like this one's an unsweetened vanilla, so it's very good. But
it's
it's oat milk. Yeah.
Oat milk. Okay, cool.
I used to, when I was getting into milk alternatives, it was like almond milk and, some of the other ones. But oat is just so like, I think if you're frothing it, that's the best. And almond just always feels heavy to me. So cheers to you, my friend. Stoked to be doing this.
Cheers, dude. I don't know. I don't know if it's good luck to cheers to with water. I don't think. Is
Oh
that a thing?
no, I've never
That's a
heard of
thing.
that.
Well, screw it. I don't think it's.
Screw it.
I'm
Yeah,
going for it. Yeah.
there's no rules here. That was
Yeah,
the dead
cheers to that,
air of
man.
us drinking at the same time. I was like, oh crap. So Anaiah, yeah, we've chatted about a number of things as far as the origins of heavy music for you. But yeah, let's kind of chat about
Oh yeah.
the last time we were on the podcast, we were talking. At the time, Zulu only had an EP out, and you have put out
Right.
a second one since then. So I definitely want to chat about that. Dare signed to Revelation
I did. Yeah.
Records shortly after that
That
podcast
happened to
dropped.
you.
So yeah, congrats on that. That's very sick. Maybe let's
Thank
start
you.
with
I appreciate that.
let's start with Dare. Like you guys have, to my knowledge, recorded an album. And yeah, just kind of give
Yeah.
an update on what's up with Dare right now.
Oh, so I can't say when it's coming out just
course,
yet.
yeah.
Although we put out a flyer that totally said it was going to come out in fall of last year.
Oh, what?
And
You put
yeah,
out a
the flyer
flyer?
said like if you look the flyer like when we first got on Rev, like
Oh,
now
okay.
on Rev,
Yeah, the graphic.
new
Yeah, I
new
got
LP
you.
coming out fall of and it totally didn't happen. It was just like which you know how it goes. Like
Yeah.
albums are never gonna come out when projected. But we did the album. It took I can go into a little bit about that. We did it. It took about roughly a month in the studio.
Mhm.
It was a fun experience because this is the first time we really did. Well, this is our first full length for one,
Yeah.
and two, you know, we've had lineup changes and stuff, and we the first time we ever put something out where the members that are in the band now was that EP, the self-titled EP.
Mhm. Yeah.
We're all so trying to find our sound and trying to find what direction we wanted to go was like the big topic, and I think any band can relate to that when trying to figure out, especially writing a full LP, because
Yeah.
that's the big one, the
Yeah.
first one that really sets the tone more so than an EP or EPs. I think you could put out a bunch of EPs and they could be great, but once you put out that LP, that's the since the video explains it, but what I'm trying, I guess, for people that won't see the video, it just sets the band's
It's like a chapter.
What's the best way to say it? It's chapter mark. It's like the concrete, like that's our mark more than an EP.
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah, because I think a lot of
And
bands can do records and like fun EP, like little side things. But the record,
it's dope.
Yeah, but I think I totally agree that as soon as you do the record, it's like, this is who we are, this is what we sound like, this is the vibe, and either you're gonna fuck with it or you're not. So
This is
yeah,
what we're about.
there's a lot of time and pressure to make sure that hits 100% to what you guys want. Yeah.
Exactly, and that was like so that was the one thing I think we argued about the most. We're just like, what do we know what we sound like, and we know what we like to play, but what do we want to, what do we want to be? It's a corny question. It's kind of cheesy, but like, I think this record does a great example of setting the tone of what the band is about.
Cool.
If people didn't already know what we were about, they will know now.
Yeah.
I feel like we really, really came into our own.
Yeah.
On this record, and I cannot wait for people to hear it more than anything. It's like I put in a lot of hard work. Sorry, what were you gonna say?
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, yeah, like as far as like the timing of things, it's funny that you guys had the announcement flyer and then it's like, yeah, things got delayed. But I think I would assume most bigger hardcore releases right now are delayed or in limbo as far as like trying to release it around the time when shows come back. So like I've always joked on the podcast where I'm like, whoever would be like a hacker, like I wish I could jump into the shoes of someone who can professionally hack and go into Dropbox and find all of like
all these
records that are currently just, here's the masters, but we're just waiting to actually start the cycle of releasing music. So I'm sure that list is crazy long.
Exactly. And yeah, lots of people are probably sitting on music right now. And truthfully, I wasn't pressed to release it sooner because it is almost like we don't know. We still don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Like to this day, when we're gonna be able to play music live, which that's the saddest thing in the world. It sucks, but
Yeah.
we don't know when that's gonna happen. So I'm kind of just like, do we really need to put out a record right now? Not really, but we want to anyway. We still want people to hear this music.
Mm-hmm.
We just also don't want, like, and I'm sure any band can relate. You don't want it to get washed out, like, and then put out a record, not tour on it immediately because we can't, and then whoever knows in a year or two when we actually can, that record's old. We got to put out a new record, and we never even got to.
Yeah, I really feel for a lot of the bands that put out like killer records that I know that they spent an entire year's worth of, writing the material and recording and fine tuning the art. Like Year of the Knife is a band that immediately comes to mind where that record is like, I know that was in a lot of people's like top tens of last year.
Right.
And the fact that they have not been able to do a lot of live aspects of majority of those songs is really sad, because the time that it does come where we can all congregate and do that, I'm sure people are going to be like, oh yeah, these are songs that are 2 years old. So that
Right.
band is, I my optimistic approach is I hope that people feel very grateful and are almost obligated to just go that much harder for bands that put out music during
Yeah.
during this time. But it'd be ignorant to only assume that, but also realize people are just going to be like, this music is old, I want more.
Exactly. But I'm really hoping that, like, people are understanding that, one, it's super hard already to try to write music during this time. Like, for
Definitely.
instance, like Dare did the record that the new LP, we wrote it during COVID time. We started a little bit like we started when did we start the record? I guess late 2019.
Mm-hmm.
And before we can get, and then we had that tour lined up with Terror. It was a super small one in February. And then LDB and stuff. And the plan was, all right, before we knew about COVID, we're gonna do this tour, do this festival, and then when we come home, we're gonna start writing this record. And within a couple months, however long, I feel like we should have it. And then boom, that happened, and it's just like, okay, I guess we didn't meet up for months. we couldn't.
Right.
And then so everything that we did and the writing process, which was crazy, was all over just me and Aaron McQueen sending each other voice notes, and then like I would track like on Logic, like I have an electronic drum set, so
Yeah.
he would send riffs, and then I would try to jam out to it. But obviously, being in a room with someone's so much easier. Just be like, let's change this, and then. But I'm just like, oh, this is frustrating because I can't change his riff. The timing's not always going to be the greatest, and I have to give advice or my suggestions after the fact.
Yeah.
And after, like, which is just like, dude, you only can imagine the bouncing back and forth between, and it's not just it takes weeks when you're like, working on just one song. So we had a full length trying of doing that for a whole album. Like,
right. Yeah. For,
it was
10 songs or something like that. Yeah.
It was tough.
I think it's a huge benefit to bands who are recording and they have time in a studio to like, what if we doubled this part? And they can actually do that on the fly versus being in the jam space and doing that. But it kind of goes like doing it in studio and having that spontaneity to like experiment and try things, and then having that freedom to do that, but in a practice setting. But a lot of it varies, all over the world. Like, in Alberta, it's still like don't get together and jam right now, or just like congregate in any capacity. But there's places in the States where that is okay to do that. So it's like some areas of the world can actually make music, and other people are like really struggling, like you said, to send voice memos, or there's still music coming out, but
it's hard.
It's very hard.
It's super hard, and ultimately, I think everyone should just, like, I guess if they weren't already taking it serious, they should just take it serious.
Yeah.
Especially over here, like there may be places you can meet up, but I guess you can do it. There's ways to do it safely, and so for instance, when a couple months into the pandemic, we were like, do you guys want to meet up? And like wanted to make sure, like, can we do it safely? Can we, do this the right way? And we were able to. And the minute we got in a practice spot, it was just way more fluent. Like we were able to hash out all the things that took 2 weeks in one session. And I'm just like, dude, it obviously was so upsetting because we were like,
for sure,
man, I would love to just do this all the time, but no, we can't. Like, and at the time, Aaron was working. I wasn't working at the time, but now, thankfully, I'm at work again. So, which is good. And well, Angel doesn't even live in Southern California anymore, so we don't really meet up as much. But it's all good.
Yeah. There's a crazy amount of and I think it's with anything in life, it's very easy to be like, so woe is me, and see all the negatives versus trying to think of like, okay, how can we overcome this obstacle? How can we still keep the snowball building and growing? And even if it's at a snail's pace, it's still growing versus, there have been a lot of bands that, for a long time, especially when COVID first hit, it was like nothing was happening. And there was no thoughts of like trying to do like a one-off single or a split with a band or things like that. So
yeah, exactly. Which honestly is true. It's much better to try to think forward, and actually any sort of progress is progress. And it's funny because I can't say the name of the record yet, but when it comes out, you'll remember this. What you said right now is kind of coincides with it a little bit.
Okay.
But I won't say the name though. But you'll be like, oh, okay, yeah. It is in a way like, through all of the tough stuff that everyone went through, somehow we managed to get together and write a full length and record it, and we like it.
Yeah,
we like it a lot. You know?
Like again, I'm trying to think about all the pros. Like there's a lot of cons. Like don't get me wrong. But there have been a lot of, I guess, things that I've noticed in heavy music where the pandemic has I think it's put people in a position to feel super creative and just like do a little side project band and not really overthink like, if I start this band, then I have to play shows and then I have to, what if people want us to tour and stuff like that. Like seeing bands just like put things out, start little side things, like I think that has really like helped the patience and just the spirit of things just going forward.
It has, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's got me same thing, doing like trying to work on stuff on my own. Like I have a couple side projects that I'm in the process of working on just for fun, not even like I don't plan on doing much with it, but exactly. It I guess it does a little bit of two things. It'll put people out of their creativity, and it'll definitely like hinder your whole creative mindset, which it has for me. But then at the same time, there's been days where, I'll actually like want to make something because nothing else to do. So it does a little bit of both. And to anyone that is able to make stuff during this time, that's props, because it is not easy. When everything else is just in shambles, it's easy to just want to give up. But
did something roll off your desk or something?
No, it was in the bathroom. It's all good though.
Oh, okay.
Like,
just the marker going off or something.
Yeah.
Another thing that I guess happened since the last time we chatted was, again, like I said before, the newest ZULU EP, My People Hold On. I see that you got the painting of Savannah just above you. Oh yeah,
Savannah. She sent. I have the original right here.
Oh yeah. I didn't.
So the original is right there from Ardil Come.
Yeah.
It's a lot smaller, and then she sent me that one, and I was like, when I got the artwork, first off, I was expecting it to be the same size. I was like, oh, okay. And then I saw a big package. I was like, what the heck is this? I opened it. I was like, wow. I had no clue that this was. I wasn't expecting it. So it's amazing.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think since our podcast, I started following her on Instagram, and just a couple days ago, she did like a really quick, I think it was like a Instagram reel or something, where it was just her studio and just kind of showing. And she works on giant sized paintings and stuff. So
yeah, she does. She's epic. She does it all. And honestly, she's like the only person I want doing Zulu artwork,
Right.
Zulu albums, EPs, whatever. So
do you know, since like kind of Zulu, like there's been a ton of attention and just hype around that band. Do you know if other bands have hit her up for, you know, doing other artwork or just work in general? I'm just kind of curious.
I don't know if bands have.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure. No, I haven't asked her. No, I know. I'm sure lots of people are, asking for commissioned work from her
Sure.
for whatever, but I don't know about bands.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I don't want to sound like crazy, but if someone did try to ask for artwork that was kind of like this, I'd be like, "Oh, you're a biter."
You're
But
like, come on, man. Yeah.
I want her to. I absolutely want people to hit her up for whatever work, whether they want a portrait or anything.
Mm-hmm.
And even bands, if bands hit her up, I'm like, dude, that's awesome. Like, I'm so happy that people mess with her artwork. But if you start to ask for artwork with this sort of vibe, I'm gonna call you out on some. I'm like, hey, you're kind of being a biter.
Yeah,
But
it's a little yeah, it's totally fine to be like, you know, throwing your own spin on things, but as soon as it's like,
absolutely,
are you copying my homework? Like, let's be real.
And I'm sure what I'm doing isn't what me and Savannah like together collectively talking about, because obviously it's her artwork,
Mm-hmm.
and I just try to give like the idea, and then she just comes back with this awesome piece of amazing work.
Yeah.
I forgot where I was going with that, but you can't, what was I saying? So I was saying with that, it's so specific.
Yeah.
If you were to hit her up to be like, I want you to do the Zulu work. I want you to do something that's like Zulu, or the artwork that you do in Zulu. A part of me is gonna obviously be like, like right. You're kind of stepping on some, you're not that you're stepping boundaries or you're crossing boundaries, but you're kind of like,
well,
it's a
especially
little
if
weird.
you like work with her so specifically as like,
yeah,
going back and forth with drafts, like there's a relationship there. I think
yeah,
that's
absolutely.
That's something that's overlooked with music, is like a lot of things, whether it's artwork, recording, merch, like it's all relationship based. So
It is
if
100%.
anything, it's like if someone was coming to her and is like, hey, can you essentially give me the beta version of this of the Zulu art for my band that also kind of sounds like Pyra? I don't know.
It's
Like,
kind of that would be weird.
that would be
weird.
Yeah, that would be weird. And my hope for if I was working so closely with an artist is that they would come to me and be like, hey, like so and so approached me, how do you feel about it? And then you can kind of work through that.
And so that's the thing where I'm like, yo, absolutely, like hit her up, do get artwork from her. Like she is an amazing artist, and you should absolutely support her. But then so it is like, but that's a really specific situation that
definitely
I don't know if that would be the case all the time. I don't think it would be, honestly.
Right.
But like you said, with especially with like bands and putting out LPs and artwork, that is a really specific thing, and sometimes it's like, I guess you could disconnect it and just be like, oh, can you do something cool like this? But like with this stuff, especially with the Zulu stuff, all the artwork is very like, there's meaning in all that. There's a lot more meaning into it, and a lot more subtleties that we talk about it, and she relates to it. She relates to what I'm talking about because of what the band is about.
Yeah.
So it's a lot more deep. It's not just like, hey, can you make something for me? It's like, we want to
you want to like really relish in the why behind the whole band.
Exactly. And I could be like, can you just make this? But she's also her own artist, so I'm like, I want to know what you think about the idea. Like, what do you think about the concept? What do you like? All those little details when talking about it, and which we have for both of these EPs, it makes it even more epic. It makes it more meaningful to me, because I'm like, it's not like I just commissioned you to be like, yeah, but we like in depth, like we went back and forth about the feel of it, like what we want it to really, what we want it to feel like,
Definitely. Yeah. And I think a lot of bands will have, oh yeah, this is artwork that looks cool, and we got someone to do that. And like,
and that's cool.
Yeah, that's cool. Like, to each
Yeah,
their
that's
own.
cool.
But yeah, if you're and we talked about this on the first podcast you came on, like the whole point of the band was to really have a deeper meaning versus just like writing hard music. Like the hard music was there, but I remember when you were talking about just like writing lyrics, you're like, I want to be able to just sound like myself versus try to be super poetic. So like I just want to say it like very to the point, and I want my words to count in that 33-second song, if anything.
Absolutely. Still. Yeah. And but like, you know, not that I've figured out the quote unquote aesthetic for the band, but I do know what I want my stuff to look like. I do know that I want the artwork to be reminiscent of 70s soul records, because that's that stuff that I like, and that's like not a lot of bands do that at all. You know, that's that stuff that gets me hyped, and I'm like, all right, I just want to do what I want to do with this band. Definitely. It's my band, and I don't care how far out there some of the ideas could be. I'm gonna do it anyways. And so with the artwork, when that was what was I was especially excited when the first EP, I was like, wow, this is amazing. It came out amazing. Then the second EP, I was like, yo, when she showed me the in work progress, I was like just blown away.
Yeah.
It's like, this is like beyond what I was
mad shout out to Savannah. She's
Savannah,
doing things
honestly
really, really sick. I want
killed it. And I'm sorry, what were you saying?
Oh, I was waiting for you to go, but I did want to chat about the new record. A trend that I had noticed both on both EPs is that the song names, generally speaking, are I'll use the term under oath length. There's just very, very long song titles, and you don't see that a lot in like just heavier music. It's like, here's this one word that I said, and it's it's funny how like ZULU is so to the point on the messaging and the music, but the song titles are very, very long. So tell me about like why you didn't want to, like, was it just a matter of like trying to do the opposite of what was expected, or tell me about those things?
Like PV bands are like classically known for having the most ridiculously long titles.
Okay.
If you think about any power, I don't know if Power Violence is some, but and a Power Violence band, sometimes they have the longest names for songs that are the most just ridiculous.
Sure.
And so people listening that, it's a thing. And I didn't do it because of that, but I have the hardest time sometimes trying to figure out names for songs, like, and especially when it's just like a one word that is in the song.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where we kind of come back to like, oh, I just wanted to do stuff the way I wanted to do. And so a lot of it is just like, well, I can think of a sentence better than I can think of 2 words for a song name.
Interesting. Okay.
And so, which is, I like, and it's kind of cool having phrases more than it being just like, oh, the song is called Hope. That's cool. But if the song was called like, Hope you go down the street and something, whatever, no, if it was just a long
working title.
it's not. And I would never use something like that. But the example is that it's just fun. It's fun getting to come up with stuff. And a lot of, someone asked me the other day, like, what the song titles mean. And I'm like, I don't really care to answer that. But
sure, yeah.
If you really want to know, it's like a lot of it is, I don't know. There's a lot of hip hop references in most of the track names. Like, so what? 52 Fatal Strikes. That's from Duel of the Iron Mike by Jizza. ODB says that in the chorus. And I don't know if you're a hip hop fan or anyone listening will be like, oh yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And then
I'm sure there's a couple people that are like, oh, I didn't know that stuff.
Yeah. It's mainly gold. I don't really mess with like new trap, whatever. I'm big on the golden age hip hop.
Definitely.
That 80s, that 90s, you know what I mean? Even 2000s, I'll be rocking with. But so like, yeah, there's that. And then like Straight from the Tribe of the Moon, that's a Black Moon reference from, if people listen to hip hop, they have that. I can't remember what song that was in the song. Doesn't matter. I'll remember the name of it, but it's from a song, and then what? Some stuff is a lot of hip hop references, and then a lot of just figuring out sentences. Someone did ask me about the song for the video on the corner of Cimarron and 24th.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, that was just the streets I lived on as a little kid.
Oh, okay.
Like
interesting.
Out in South LA. It's in an area called West Adams for people that are from LA that are listening to it.
Yeah.
If you're not from LA, don't go there. Like it's cool. It's cool. I lived down the street from the house Marvin Gaye got shot. Like legit at the time.
Wow.
His house was down the way. Like, I guess it's not cool that he got shot at all. But it's a fun, like his house was there.
It's a fun fact.
It's a fun fact. It's a neighborhood that a lot of movies are filmed in. But at the time, especially growing up as a little kid, I didn't spend a lot of time there, but it was a rough neighborhood, just like in a lot of neighborhoods in LA. And it was the first on that corner was the first time I remember ever hearing gunshots. And that's the reason why I named it that song.
Oh,
so that was
crazy.
On the corner. Like every morning I'd go to school, wait for my mom to take me to, I went to school out in Hollywood. So she would drive from South LA, take me over there. And I remember one time I was out there and just hear, I'm just like, oh snap. As a little kid, you don't, I don't even know if as a little kid you really trigger that that's what's happening or realize that that's what's happening.
You're like, is that, what are those like firecrackers or whatever? But like
exactly.
you knew it sounded different from that. Yeah, that's crazy.
Just a fun fact. But I don't, again, when I don't like to like go into it, but if someone asks, obviously there's two parts where I'm like, like I don't care to talk about this like at all. But then I also understand why you would be curious as to why I named it such an obscure sounding title.
Yeah.
And in that, I guess while we're on the subject of that song, like what the lyrics are, what's the lyrics of that song? 4 Block Death Trap, there's no way out of this place, killer be killed. That's talking about like, yo, in LA, gangs operate by block. So like what the neighborhood that I lived in was a blood neighborhood. And it was like, probably lasted from I don't even remember if it was the 1500 north, it doesn't matter, but they last in like a block radius, a couple blocks here, then. So that's why it's like when you live in a place like that, and I don't want to go deep into this line of conversation, but since I'm already here, that's where you're at. You're in that 4 block, 5 block area. And, for some people, that's all they know, and they just live there their entire life, and they get trapped up in the gang life, and that's just because that's their means of survival. So what I'm trying to say is, for those people that try to act like being in gangs is cool and acting like thugs is cool, don't do that. You look weird doing that. If you go to the wrong place and do that, you're liable to get shot.
Yeah.
So. Don't try to portray it. And that's something that a lot of people, and I know in hardcore, try to act like thuggish or try to put on this front. I'm like, please don't do that. Especially if you're from a nice neighborhood, enjoy your nice neighborhood, because there's so many people where we come from where it isn't nice.
Right.
It isn't nice, and we grew up a certain way, and you're trying to glorify this life that you know nothing about, other than just that you listen to hip hop and you've watched Boys in the Hood.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
That's not it.
Yeah, a lot of people just wearing 2XL hoodies and and just ridiculous clothing try to portray a certain image, but they live in like a cul-de-sac, where the average age is like 50 plus or something.
Yeah, don't do that. Like, dude, it is such a when people do that, I'm like, oh my gosh, like I know what you're doing, but you look very cheesy, and I don't care. I'll say that openly.
Yeah.
And if anyone had a problem with me, then they can say something. But I'm like, yeah. If you're pressed by it, that's probably because you're the one that's doing it.
Yeah.
Off top.
I know this will be a topic shift, but I know something that we had talked about at it was after we finished recording the episode, and it was a question that I wanted to ask, and it was more of this would kind of be a fun funny thing to ask you. Because I
go
pulled
ahead.
it from Nikki, and then you had an actual deeper meaning. But she was like, you need to ask Anaiah why he doesn't swear, and how you
Oh,
don't use curse
that's
words and all these things. And
uh,
and when I asked you, it was more like, you know, I think that there's something to be admired of people who can use the verbiage of like, you know,
thank you.
fools versus like things like that. But yeah, like has that always just been something that has been instilled with you growing up, or is there a deeper thing to that?
There's absolutely nothing. Okay, so first off, I'm gonna say before we go into that,
Yeah.
I get this question asked a lot, and
Okay.
I'm impressed when people I talk to people, and then it's not a lot of people, but sometimes they'll be like, "Oh, you don't curse," and I'm like, "Oh, you just picked that up just right now," because like the whole conversation, I'm saying "dang" and "heck,"
Yeah.
and but you know, I didn't think that people picked up on that sort of thing, but some people do, and I'm like, I'm impressed, most impressive. I'm
Just doing the
but
Star
okay,
Wars references. We'll get to that very soon.
we'll get to that.
Yeah.
Two, are you familiar with the dude Kale? He plays in a bunch of hardcore bands. He plays drums in Misery, Twitching
Oh.
Tongues,
Oh, okay.
Downpressor.
Yeah. I've
That
seen
that
videos, so
fool
I know who that is. Yeah.
that fool is one of my best friends, and he's convinced, and I'm gonna get him to watch this. He's very convinced that I've cussed in front of him, and we'll be on FaceTime for hours, and he'll be like, "You just said the F word." I'm like, "No, it's literally in your head," and
Oh, he's
he,
trying to break you in a
he
sense.
he's trying to. I know he's trying to break me, and Kale, if you're watching this, I know what you're doing. You're not slick. He he'll be like, I remember like a couple months ago you said this in the car, and I was like, it's and so I like to play with him sometimes. I'll be like, yeah, of course I did. Like,
Yeah.
but
Okay,
he
Kale.
knows. Okay, Kale. Like, of course I said
Yeah.
that. But I'm just like, dude, he is trying to get me to cuss, and there'd be days where or he'll spend like, and I am not exaggerating, like 30 minutes of our conversation trying to get me to swear, and I'm like, dude, you're not going to. Like, I promise you, you're not going to get me to
That's
swear.
so
And
funny.
he'll be begging me, and I'll be like, no.
No.
Anyways, I wanted to mention that because he's still actively. And last night we were on FaceTime, and he was like, he tried to catch me, and I was like, dude, I said something that was not even close to the word he thought I said. That I was saying the F word. He's like, oh, you said fudge, and I was like, no, no, I
No.
didn't. And this is like 3 a.m. We're like on FaceTime. But
That's so
anyways,
funny.
so I just wanted to mention that because I love that dude. One and two, I just know he's praying for me to cuss. So
He's counting down the days.
he's honestly counting it down. He believes I already did, and he's already dead set in his mind that I did. But
Yeah. Well, there's
um,
tons of conspiracy theorists out
there,
there when it comes to
oh,
Anaiah's
there
cursing.
are. He's not the first one, and he won't be the last. There's plenty of
Right.
people that have been like, "Oh, I thought you said this once," or I'm pretty sure someone thought I cussed in a song, which
Oh.
the lyrics are on Bandcamp, so there's no literal way
Right.
of having done that without me. I'm just like, no. Um, so I guess okay, to go into the reasoning behind it, I have no idea. I grew up in a household where both my parents swore the most. Like, it was as a little kid, like they didn't care. They
Mm-hmm.
just like whether it was, and not to bag on my folks, but whether it was to me or to my brothers or sisters or my siblings or whatever, or to whoever, they cursed. It was the most free range. So I don't know where this I don't know where it came from. I don't, maybe it was just
Was it just the opposite? It was just like you're doing this and I just want to rebel, which is funny because it's kind of the opposite, but I just
kind
wanted to
of
go the opposite way.
it kind of maybe it was a little bit of that. I'm just like, okay, it just wasn't a thing that I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't even something I thought of, and I think about it sometimes because I go back far into my childhood. I'm like, okay, where did this come from? Because so many people do ask me that. I'm like,
Hmm.
it doesn't have an origin as to. I didn't have like I'm not gonna do this.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna ever cuss in my life. It just never happened. I just never did it in elementary. all the little kids would cuss and say the most messed up stuff.
Sure.
Trying to put the combo of words together that don't make sense, but they just wanted to cuss. So it didn't hit. And then I got into middle school and
the curse combo. They're like, can I
curse
say
combo,
the F word, the S word, and this word all in the same sentence?
Yeah, and it sounds so funny.
300 points.
But I'm just, yeah. It just never happened. So like, to Nikki and to whoever else that wants to know it, I don't have a reason for it. By now, sure. I'm 24 years old. It's just not a part of my vocabulary. It's just not. It's like words that just don't come out of my mouth. So
yeah.
And some people do ask like, "Oh, you never get mad and just say ah?" I'm like,
I have another word for that.
All these years, I have another word for that.
Yeah.
Shoot.
Dang. No, it
is. Kale will get so mad at me when I say that. He'll be like, "You sound like you're in elementary." I'm like, "Are you kidding me? Kids in elementary are cussing more than
straight up." Kids in elementary are saying the most heinous things because they watch like Logan Paul and like all these crazy YouTubers who are just like dropping creating new bombs.
Yeah, in the vocabulary. And that's like new age little kids. I'm talking about like little kids for like my generation. They were watching the most just like, I don't know, South Park or whatever, when the uncensored South Park or Family Guy, where they were saying all this gnarly stuff, and then they would take it to school and they would quote it, and I think
Family Guy was censored, but South Park wasn't.
Family Guy was censored, but they said they got away with some gnarly stuff. South Park
like you censor it, but you know what they said.
Yeah. And like it's South Park, I think there was a censored version, but there was like times where you could watch it where it wasn't censored.
Definitely. Yeah.
Where they did say all the gnarly stuff. And I think that's more like later at night.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. But anyways, regardless, they would say all that stuff. And I'd be like, dude, both those shows suck. Those shows are stupid. I didn't like them. I didn't really watch South Park or Family Guy growing up. I'd watch Family Guy here and there, but I was like, dude, I didn't get it as a little kid. And then I got older and tried watching it. I'm like, dude, this show sucks.
Yeah.
Simpsons are better.
Yeah, it is funny though, like how you said that it just, it was something that like you didn't think people would notice, but then they did. And that was very, very similar to me, different in the way that I grew up in a Christian household. So it was like, oh, I'm not allowed to say these words. And then over time, it was like I would go to hardcore shows or metalcore shows or punk shows, and people would be like, oh, you're not saying this. And, that has changed over time where it's like, I think in my mind was like, oh, like if I say this, I'm not like of this person of faith. And now it's like, I don't give a fuck. I'm going to say that if I want to.
Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah, why not?
I do like I said originally at the beginning is like, I think people that can find the words to use instead of the well-known tropes of saying certain words where you're angry or frustrated or whatever. I think that's very, very cool.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah. I think I almost think more people should try and execute that as well, because I think a lot of swears naturally are just buzzwords for people. They'll just say willy-nilly.
Yeah, which is and then people will be like, "Oh, I don't mean to offend you or anything." I'm like, dude, I don't care. I don't give a flying flip if you cuss. Like, I don't like. Go ahead and cuss like a sailor all you want. Like, I don't care. You're not gonna offend me.
Right. Do you have a go-to like Anaiah like curse word, if anything?
It's not I guess it's not curse words, but like there's flip, dang, heck. Like I love replacing the F word with flip. Like, but people so I guess in person it makes more sense, but in text I'll be like, oh, that person's flipping up, and they're like, what do you mean flipping up?
Yeah,
like,
are they doing something sketchy? You're like, no.
I'm like, no, it's just like that. I'm like, whatever. Like,
let's move on.
People have definitely been like, what are you saying? I'm like, what the flipping heck? That's a great one. I've been using that I've been using that since I was like 12.
That's so funny.
That's a good one.
There should be a Zulu shirt that says Zulu, and on the back it just flip, heck, shoot, like all the swear words.
I might have to do that idea, or like do what the flipping heck.
What the flipping heck?
just on the back, but in varsity, all the way down to just
Dude,
like giant
I buy
letters
that in
down
a
the
fucking
down the back.
heartbeat. That's so in a flipping heartbeat. Excuse me.
In a flipping heartbeat. I might do that actually. I might have to do the first ZULU hoodie I do. Will have to be logo on the front, and then I'm gonna
Oh man,
put that in my
we're making some ZULU shit on the podcast here.
Honestly, and I probably will hold my word to that because I think that sounds amazing.
If you're gonna get a flippin' heck hoodie, once that comes up, put it in the comments so I can just push Anaiah to like, all right, let's do it, man.
Yeah.
Let's get the pre-order set up.
To be honest, I could, yeah.
So Anaiah, this next section has been something that I've been looking forward to talking to you since our first time. The almighty Star Wars. Anyone that knows you knows that you're very big into that.
It is, yeah. I am not.
You're unapologetic.
Closed off about it. I unapologetically love Star Wars. That is not a secret.
Yeah.
I make it very well known too.
Literally the day before.
Did you see my lightsaber fight last night?
Oh yeah, I was just gonna bring that up. I was like, I'm prepping for the episode, and then you're just like doing lightsaber fights. So I was like, okay. So before we get into some of those very niche things, tell me about like how the love of Star Wars started for you. Like, tell me about your first movie experience and some of those things to properly set it up.
Yeah. Okay. So like many things, my dad was the influence to. I gotta thank my dad for kind of everything I like, because the music I listen to, skateboarding, Star Wars, because of him, I kind of got into all that. He was into Star Wars. He was into all these cool things as a kid, and he just, when I was a little kid, just passed it on.
Yeah.
And I'm so thankful for that, because I don't know where I would be. So it was like, yeah, as a little kid, I can't even remember how far back. I just remember watching the original trilogy before Phantom Menace came out.
Yeah.
And then I remember Phantom Menace coming out and having it on tape and watching it until like every single day, all the time, watching that movie. And, not even understanding fully everything. And then when I got older, I'm like, okay, I can understand these movies a lot better and understand what's going on.
Yeah.
But as a little kid, watching it over and over again. And then I remember watching Attack of the Clones in theater for the first time. Like, I remember going to see that a couple times, and I had the lightsaber and and that was something as a little kid that literally just lingered and stuck around into now.
Mm-hmm.
If anything, it got worse. Because now I'm an adult.
I'm a grown-ass man, and I still love this as much as I did when I was...
Exactly.
Yeah.
And more. There's been so much more Star Wars stuff that's came out since then. And I don't think people realize this, but I spend a lot of my time like studying Star Wars, researching, staying up to date with anything that has to do. I sometimes keep up with the spoilers. I won't lie, because I can't help it.
Well, right, yeah. It's like when you're so obsessed with something, it's like I can't not click on this link and read up on it.
Yeah, exactly. And there's some things where, especially when it comes to spoilers, you take it with a grain of salt. But definitely. I like to find sources. I like to understand that it's coming from a reliable source at Lucasfilms, and someone's and they have the history of just having like all their stuff leaked. Like they've always like, they're not good at keeping stuff a secret.
Yeah.
Like for anything in that world, I remember just to offshoot, I remember when Rise of Skywalker's whole script got leaked. I didn't look at it though.
Right.
I don't know.
Remember
I didn't look at it. It was on. Everyone was able to see it, but it wasn't the script that it was going to be. It wasn't the script for what actually came out. It was like the 3 or 4 hour version of what it was. What they wanted to make it a lot more grand.
Off the scent of what actually was going to go down.
It did, but I will say this. I remember I was like, I'm not going to click it, and then I clicked it. I started reading the open dialogue, and I was like, and it was talking about Kylo Ren flying to a planet to meet a mysterious figure. And that was after I stopped reading that, I was like, nope, Like,
you're like, nope, no
and
more.
then sure enough, it
No
ended
more.
up being, nope, no more. I didn't want to even continue going because I wanted it to just be a complete surprise. And sure enough, it was he totally did fly to a planet and met a mysterious figure,
Yeah,
as we all know.
definitely. Yeah.
So I was like, dang, they got that right. You know?
Yeah. There was there's a few things that I am so nerdy about outside of music where if there's leaks
Yeah.
outside, like I would say the two things that come to mind are Star Wars and Pokemon. So when new Pokemon generations would come out and something from
Okay. Yeah.
Nintendo would get leaked, I just want to look at all the new um someone would be like, "Oh, there's going to be a ground snake Pokemon that wraps itself and it's going to be called this." And I'm like, "Oh, that's interesting." And then months later it's like this Pokemon gets announced and it's that. So I'm like being obsessed in that culture, like,
Oh,
yeah, it's very, very cool. So this
wait,
is.
they still make new Pokemons?
Oh yeah, you haven't.
Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off.
No, you're fine. They're
I'm not a
on.
Pokemon fan, so I appreciate it,
Yeah.
but I had no clue that they were making new ones.
Well, the newest one is
That
on
makes sense though.
is
That
on the
totally makes sense.
Switch, so it's like
Oh,
almost like
okay.
an open world Pokemon game.
Okay, the last game I remember was Pokemon Go. I also was referring to, are they making new cards of new characters?
Oh, well, like every generation has a lineup of new mons, and what they started doing in the last couple ones. Sorry to anyone who doesn't like Pokemon. We'll hit on this for a bit and get back to Star Wars.
Dude,
But
people love Pokemon.
yeah, no, yeah. Right now, people
People love
love
Pokemon. Yeah.
Pokemon. But
I didn't realize, yeah, that cards were in such demand.
yeah, but every generation, they'll do, a new. I think it's around. It depends. Like some generations are like, here's 100 new mons. Some are like, here's 50. So it's kind of within there. But what they started doing that's really cool is they'll do like regional forms of like nostalgic Pokemon. So like,
Oh, that's cool. I like
in
that.
this game, there's a Galarian Slowpoke. So for him, instead of being just a water Pokemon, he's like water psychic, I believe. So they'll like throw new types, change the look. I think like Weezing is like he's got like a top hat and he has like smoke coming out the top. It's like Pokemon has always been a fan. Like I've always loved it because they are just like we're gonna do whatever we want and just either it's gonna be really cool or very, very strange and no one's gonna understand it. So I just have to appreciate what they do.
Jeez, that is yeah. I'm gonna pretend like I knew what you were talking about because,
Sure.
But I appreciate it and I appreciate all that stuff and it's cool because at the end of the day, being just a geek, I appreciate any sort of fandom for whatever. Like that's like the thing. It get like people can make fun of it or whatever, but like like I appreciate it.
There's so much in the lore of anything, whether it's Pokemon or Star Wars. So there's so much to chew on. So
yeah.
Speaking.
The only thing sorry, real quick. The only thing I'll never appreciate though, and some people hate on it. Star Trek lore.
Oh.
And that is
the shots have been fired.
Oh yeah, and that's a shout out to my homie Ola, who runs quality control. She loves Star Trek, and me and her have bi-weekly beefs of going back and forth.
It's in your calendar. Time to beef on Star Trek with Ola.
Time to set trip, and we do it like. But I've been learning about Star Trek from her because I like knowing a little bit about the enemy. So it's like, and I've learned a lot more than I would have ever imagined. But I appreciate that she even like people that like Star Trek. Like it's just being geeks.
Yeah.
And liking something a lot.
Yeah. Like honestly, a lot of people are so obsessed with hardcore. It's to the point that it is geeky. But I think that's really cool that people can just be like find like whether it's, a release or just like find purpose even within some kind of creative entity. I think that's really, really cool. So
it's amazing. Absolutely.
Yeah. Going back to the Star Wars talk.
Yes.
So we've kind of set the stage. This is really funny because one of the last episodes that I had for season 1 was with Sunny from Hey 56, and we talked briefly on Star Wars because he's got the Admiral Akbar mask and pulls that out.
I still need to listen to that episode. When I saw that, I was like, oh, that's awesome as heck.
Yeah, that was a huge goal for mine. I can't remember how it came up naturally, but when he did his live stream with No Option, they had a Phantom Menace tape, and he like throws it on the ground and is stepping on it. I was like, what do you have against Phantom Menace?
No.
And then I was like thinking of you, and I knew this podcast was coming up, so I was like, okay, let's take a moment for, this is going to be a very polarizing section, but why, in your opinion, are people too critical of the prequels versus maybe the original trilogy?
Now, this is a great okay. All right. Here we go.
Here we go. Strap in.
Here's the first thing, in my opinion. I think people just do not like the acting. That's it. That's when it comes down to the core.
Mm-hmm.
The story is absolutely amazing. Getting to see Anakin Skywalker's origin story is awesome as heck. Getting to see the fall of the Republic is awesome as heck. But people aren't that deep. Only Star Wars fans are ever going to be that deep. Most people, when it comes down to it, do not like the prequels because of the acting. They don't like it because, I guess in the case of Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, they don't like Hayden Christensen.
Yeah.
At all. But this is weird. In 2021, people love Hayden Christensen. There's a generation of people.
I was just thinking that. I was like, at the time, everyone's like, this guy sucks. And now it's like people going crazy when it's like, he's coming back as Darth Vader for this. I'm like, what? It's
because, where were you like 20 years ago?
Exactly.
Where were you then?
Yeah.
You were hating. I was in theaters watching Revenge of the Sith.
You were hating.
You were hating. You were hating Hayden, and you hated Natalie Portman because you thought that her dying in Revenge of the Sith wasn't convincing enough or was too weak.
Yeah.
And for that, I just say, y'all are some haters.
Stop hating Hayden.
Stop hating Hayden. Stop hating Hayden.
Yeah.
Hashtag it.
But
blow it people like Hayden now or realize the worth of the prequels because the sequels came out, and then people don't like the sequels, and now people are like, I'm like, no. You spent a mass majority of the last 20 years hating on these movies.
Mm-hmm.
No, I don't want you coming back ever again. But here, okay, so I want to go quickly a little bit about Hayden Christensen's performance as Anakin.
Definitely.
When people like to talk about how bad it was, I like to say this. Look at the character Anakin Skywalker for one. He left his mom at the age of what? He was 9? No. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. He was 9 or 10 when he left
I'll
his
fact
mom.
check for that for you.
Because Padme was 14 in Phantom Menace. So, and I kept tabs on it because I always did think it was weird that they got together, but they got together at a point in time where
Google is telling me he was 9 in episode 1.
Yeah. Okay, so he was 9, and then he was 19 in Attack of the Clones. So, yeah, so he left his mom as a 9-year-old at a point where, think of if you were 9 and you left your parents, that's like you're in the growing stage of becoming a preteen, coming into your own a little bit. Right. He left that to go to space, which he's been dreaming about his whole life, to become essentially a space wizard.
Mm-hmm.
Or that's what so he thought.
Right.
And on top of that, there's this girl that's much older that he is kind of developed with. He's infatuated with. All these things are hitting, all these angles hitting like, okay. And then think about, I guess, for people that don't keep up with his character, he, in the comics and stuff, he spent his entire childhood being told as a Jedi, you're not supposed to keep attachments. You're not supposed to, not that you're supposed to not love, like you can be compassionate, but you're not supposed to have attachments. So liking or being with someone wasn't promoted. Mm-hmm. It's weird. The Jedi philosophy is very backwards. Yes. And a lot of people like to praise Jedi. Not that I don't like to, but there's so many things that are just backwards about it that did not make sense, and which is why they fell, why the Jedi fell. But anyways, to go back on and then he gets he becomes 19. He goes through his whole teens being told that while still feeling this, hasn't seen Padme, and then by the time he becomes 19, finally sees her in episode 2. He doesn't know what to do. He's 19. He's like he's been told no his entire upbringing as a teenager, and now sees her, and he's just flipping out.
Right.
His hormones are raging. Like, it's crazy.
There's also the element that, and I'm just realizing this now, is that there's all this like talk. Well, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but like, when does he actually, like, does he ever just like, is he ever told that he's the chosen one? I don't know if that actually happens.
He is, yeah, like, yeah. I don't know if anyone ever explicitly said it. I think it's just kind of known.
Sure.
And he knows it. And he knows it too.
So let's just assume that he knows it. And now that there's like this delusional aspect where he's like, I have to act a certain way because I am this, like, the highest of everyone. It's almost like I'm thinking of certain scenes in Attack of the Clones. There's like an element of how he acts is like very similar to like maybe an overzealous like YouTube influencer who is just like very performative. Oh, sorry, master, and they're talking a certain way. But yeah, they're like you said, there's a ton of layers to this, and a lot of people are just like not looking at all of that and just looking at it as bad acting.
And to me, he kind of killed it because he killed how, like, that character Anakin Skywalker would be that awkward, would be that weird, and not know how to talk about being in love. Because even though there's plenty of scenes that you can watch, I don't need to go into it, where he tries to explain what he's feeling, and how it's tearing him apart. Like, yeah, it kind of is, because it's the clash of like what he's been brought up to know and what he is feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, because he became a Jedi, or he started the path of becoming a Jedi so late, he's already developed attachment to his mom. He has that very badly. So like, that was the first mistake.
Yeah.
And it's debated. It's always like, did Qui-Gon really do the right thing taking him from his mom?
Yeah.
But these are all line of conversations we could go down. But ultimately, I'll stick with, he did a great job portraying Anakin Skywalker, and people just don't want it. People don't get that deep to admit that his character is that complex and that he is the way he is because of all those things. They just think, oh, he just is so bad and so cringy. I'm like, you would be too if you were in that position. Definitely. Just saying.
Yeah.
You would 100% be that awkward and cringy, not know how to express what you're saying.
Yeah. I think Star Wars overall has been attached to a lot of people's hearts as far as like what makes a good Star Wars like experience for me is like something that's new, because the world or the space or the lore is like infinite. So
it is so big. Yeah.
So it's like whether you're seeing a gangster like slug named Jabba that like drops people into a pit and has a big pet rancor that eats them, versus like a devil-looking Sith who has a double-sided lightsaber. Like, both of those are like equal as far as like, whoa, this is so crazy. Like, seeing the pod race scene in theaters for the first time, like, still blows my mind anytime I rewatch it.
It's amazing. It never gets old how that universe is so, you could do whatever.
Yes.
You can make whatever. You can make whatever, and it'll make sense in the Star Wars universe. Yeah. I love that. And that's another thing to why I love it so much. It's just like, and I think this just can go for anyone that's into any sort of fandom, especially like in your everyday life. It's stuff is tough sometimes for people. Mm-hmm. And when you have this little niche or this little thing where you can go in and just forget about everything else and just dive into this world of infinite possibilities, it's awesome. Like,
definitely,
it makes you feel good. And so that's what Star Wars does for me. It makes me feel good when stuff is tough, when stuff is good, when stuff is bad, whatever. I can turn to Star Wars and just
it's all G. It's all
okay. My mind is blank and I just focus on it. And so it is, and I say Star Wars as a whole, so that refers to anything Star Wars, is my comfort zone.
Yeah.
That's like my nothing could stop. Like no matter how bad something is going, I could put on any movie, any show, anything, and it'll make me feel better, or it'll help ease the tension.
I think that's a huge point. Like at least with hardcore music, it's like you can get lost in the lore if you want to say that. But I think right now it's tough because music is the thing where you hear it and you want to see that in a live setting. And right now we haven't been able to do that. With Star Wars, it's like you see it and you have it there. And there are like maybe live setting or physical manifestations, whether you're going to Disney World or Disneyland or whatever. And there's like parks and rides and those things. Yeah. That's still a lot newer though. But overall, it's like you can watch a Star Wars movie, you can watch the Clone Wars, you can go into the YouTube
book or comic.
Comic.
The YouTube, anything.
Yeah. There's so many things. What are you personally most excited for in the now that Star Wars is owned by Disney, they're like, and I think I think a lot of people are going back to the prequels and being like, wow, these are a lot better than the movies that Disney made. What are you most excited about? Whether it's a show, even just a character arc. Like, where does your mind go when it comes to coming up? Yeah,
coming up so coming up right now. Gosh, there's so much. So I'm really excited about the Acolyte show. That's going to be based around the High Republic, and they're setting up now with the High Republic books and comics. Are currently being made. Some are out right now. They're setting up this entire universe, the High Republic, which is a couple hundred years before the events of the prequels. And that show is going to focus on potentially a Sith Lord that is coming into town. Because I remember when they announced that, they're like, "Oh, a dark force is going to come and mess up the program." And I'm like trying to look back into the history of like, okay, this is when the High Republic is set. Who was Sith in it at the time?
Yeah,
that's awesome. So Acolyte, that show, or Acolyte, however you pronounce it,
right?
That show is gonna be amazing. Ahsoka,
right?
That show will be legendary. That's my favorite.
That's supposed to be live action, if I'm remembering.
That's live action.
Yeah,
100%. And I know I've been kind of following. There hasn't been many rumors, many leaks, because they're not really focused on that show right now. They're focused on Andor, Bad Batch, and Kenobi's kind of like in the works. And then they have Mandalorian, but Mandalorian got pushed back to next year. There's supposed to be a new season this year, which isn't happening.
I was confused when that season wrapped up. It was like, hey, I think it's the Book of Boba or
Book of Boba. That's a separate show.
Yeah, but that's a separate show. So it's like, oh shit, we have 2 bounty hunter shows. That's amazing.
Yep. And here's the thing. So and I'm sure you've heard about it. They're setting up all these shows, and especially during the Mandalorian timeline.
Yeah.
For a movie. That's going to be what everyone's been talking about. Sick. I know it's so far in the future to think about, but I think it's going to go down with like, okay, so the Ahsoka show, we're going to get Grand Admiral Thrawn.
Yep.
So people that don't know who Grand Admiral Thrawn is, he was a character from Legends, and by Legends I mean like comics and storylines that existed in like the 90s or 2000s or whatever. He's an old character.
Yeah.
That they brought back for a show called Star Wars Rebels.
Yeah.
Which was insane that they even like brought back that character. He was an amazing villain. He has an amazing storyline that anyone, there's comics on him, there's books on him, but they're bringing him back for the Ahsoka show. That's for sure going down. And it's like, maybe we might have a crazy new villain for this movie involving where Boba Fett's going to be in it. Din Djarin's going to be in it. All these people, all these shows, we're going to get the New Republic involved. It's going to be epic. And it's just like what they're setting up right now, all these shows. So there's so much fun content coming out in the next 10 years or so.
Most definitely.
I'm like, dude, it's a new era of Star Wars. It's like a whole new
I think the thing that really opened my mind to like the Star Wars universe is infinite. The stories are infinite. Is when they did Rogue One, and I was like blown away. I'm like, this is like a little like one or two lines in A New Hope where it's like, Both Spies got the, or I'm not sure of the actual like line for line, but it was like a group of rebels got this information about the Death Star, and it was like you don't even think of that when you're watching the movie, even a time after.
No, you don't even. They made a whole movie about it.
A whole movie, and arguably like probably one of the best things that Disney has produced on the Star Wars side of things.
Absolutely. Rogue One was an amazing movie. I think around the board, no Star Wars fan has hated on it.
Yeah.
Even the both sides of the spectrum, the hater Star Wars fans and then the lover Star Wars fans, it's praised on both sides. It was an amazing movie, and it also, because of the time where it took place.
Right.
And I remember watching that in theaters. I was like, dude, this rocks. This was like the first step into the new vibe of Star Wars, and it was amazing. It was amazing. I loved that movie. I even like Solo. A lot of people hate on Solo. A lot of people still hate on Solo, and I don't know what's your opinion on Solo.
I think it. I might have to rewatch it. I've only watched it once. I didn't hate it when I watched it, but I maybe, and this goes back to like maybe just Star Wars. You have high expectations because, granted, it is Star Wars. So maybe it was just like Han Solo is this legendary character. So yeah, there was definitely certain aspects I was like, oh, that's how that came to be, and this, but it didn't wow me the same way that Rogue One did. And granted, it's a totally different type of story. So maybe that was on me as far as setting the anticipation levels.
And that happens, and again, it's because it's Star Wars. You're literally you expect so much.
George Lucas essentially handed over a golden egg to Disney and sold it for millions of I forgot how much money that.
I forgot how much it was. He
cashed the check.
He cashed in his check.
Yeah.
And I don't know what Kathleen Kennedy's doing at all. I'm just.
Star Wars.
I don't know what
Disney
she's doing.
Deal.
Oh, you're looking it up right now.
Oh yeah, I have to. How much did? Just 3 years later, $4 billion. Billy. I was totally off with $1 million. It's billion.
$4 billion.
That is.
I feel like it's worth way more than that though.
But yeah. Well, let's just because we're going down.
Because we're going down the
Star
rabbit
Wars. What do you search? Net worth?
Yeah. Star Wars net worth.
Oh well, okay. So sold it for $4 billion. It's currently at. Is this right? Total revenue $68.7 billion. That shit's crazy.
That's big, but why do I feel like it should be bigger? I think I just love it so much. I'm like, oh, it should be a bigger number.
I checked another source and it said in 2020 its total value was $70 billion, which you'll round it up.
That's still a big number. Still a very, very, very big number.
The fifth highest grossing media franchise of all time. So
what's the first?
Oh, now we're just. I want to stay on the Star Wars topic.
Forget it. Yeah, I'm gonna look in. Yeah, I'm gonna look into that. But let's stay Star Wars because now I'm intrigued. Like it's the fifth.
Yeah.
What's the fourth and the third?
Yeah, as far as things I'm excited about, I think Kenobi will be really interesting just because Ewan McGregor. A lot of hate was on prequels at the time, but Ewan was like a great, like just kind of stay with me kind of thing. Like he was always that person to break the ice and always have those like really keen lines and moments. So having him in another Star Wars iteration is really, really exciting to kind of see the timeline in between when he's, dropping off young Luke and then, years later is like, Obi-Wan, I haven't been called that in many, many years.
I like your Alec Guinness accent.
Oh, thank you. I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna get hated on it.
It was funny. It was funny. No, but Obi-Wan Kenobi is gonna be. Oh my gosh, I'm excited about it. I love that character, and I think while Hayden Christensen got all the hate, Ewan McGregor got virtually none.
Right.
People loved, and those are. And
Hayden
here's the
absorbed
thing:
all
those
the
are
hate.
big shoes. No, not at all. And he was stepping into really big shoes. Obi-Wan's
Definitely,
character was well more established than Anakin Skywalker's character. Darth Vader was obviously, huge as heck, but Obi-Wan was up there too.
Right.
And then Anakin Skywalker was broken down, obviously, by in the prequels. So, but he did it well. He really killed, like, absolutely killed that. And so many people for years were asking for him to come back, and here you go.
Yeah,
we're getting it.
Yeah.
And not only are we getting that, but we're getting Hayden Christensen, and people are excited about that. I never thought people would be excited to get,
to get Hayden
those two back together.
Well, this is a timing question, but I know that you've seen the latest season of Mandalorian. I know a lot of people were like, the last scene was like the best thing that I've seen in Star Wars in so long, and I do agree that scene was very moving and very, very powerful. But me and my wife talked about it, and she was like I, and this is her words. She was like, I think Boba Fett having his epic comeback, with, the Slave One and all these different things, that in her opinion was way better. So I'm curious on where you land as far as the best, like season 2 hit it out of the park. Like the first episode is, you're teaming up with the Tusken Raiders to take down this giant sandworm. Like that, I was like, okay, I'm sold. Whatever you throw at me for the rest of this season, I'm into. But what was your favorite moment from that season?
So, first off, I'll say that first episode was insane. Yeah. When they bringing that character, the Krayt Dragon, who is like a Legends character, and getting to see it in action like that on the big, I was like, wow. When the screen opened up during the scene where they started to fight it, I was like, oh wow, like, holy cow, it's going down.
Yeah,
it was they knocked it out the park.
Yeah,
and my favorite moment, I will say, was bringing Ahsoka Tano on live action. I've been a fan of that character since you can be a fan of that character.
Yeah, exactly.
Since Clone Wars, the movie.
Yeah.
And when she was getting all that hate, we stuck by. Because, she got lots of hate. And then the TV show came out, and people realized she was an awesome character.
Right.
And so when Mandalorian season 2 was getting leaked and the episode names got leaked and who directed it, Filoni's on episode 5. It's going down. It had to go down. We all knew.
We know it's happening.
I remember watching episode 4 where Bo-Katan was like, "Go to was it Corvus? You're gonna meet Ahsoka Tano." I'm like, there we are. Like, that was. I was like, thank you. And then I waited. Actually, it was episode 3. Bo-Katan was in it. Was it episode 3?
I think you are right that it was. There's an episode in between where you don't see Ahsoka, and then the Ahsoka episode comes in.
Yeah, because they go to see flipping that full Cara Dune, and they see Grief Karga. That was the episode in between that set it up for when he went to Corvus, but I could be wrong about the actual episode. I don't know if it was 3 or whatever though. I was excited about Ahsoka going on to the show and seeing her live action because this is a character I'd loved for so long. So that was my epic moment. And that episode that Filoni did produce, or that he produced, was beautiful. Like one of the most beautiful episodes. Everything about it. You get Grogu's backstory that everyone's craving.
You learn his name. He's not just Baby Yoda. It's Grogu.
Yeah. Which I hated Baby Yoda. I hate it with a burning passion. Anybody that says Baby Yoda, my heart just goes, actually the child. And then now that he has a name, it's actually Grogu.
Right.
You silly people. So that episode was my top moment. The Boba coming back. Okay, I was a Boba Fett fan. I had the action figures. I love, Boba Fett was a great character. He's a cool looking character in the originals.
Yeah.
He wasn't my go-to character. He wasn't like my, so many people were excited about him coming back, and getting to see our guy come back was awesome.
Yeah.
So that was amazing. Getting to see Luke Skywalker come back, though, I think was more epic.
Yeah.
And so I understand why, but there's some people are like, oh, we've seen enough of Luke. We didn't see enough of Boba. Last time we saw Boba, he was in the
like I've had this conversation with a number of people. Like Star Wars, the entire any movie adaptation, I would say 9 times out of 10, everything is surrounded around the Skywalker family. Like whether you like that or not, that's just the reality. So like, it's not about
it is.
Like, oh, you're playing the Jedi card or something, but like that is like that way of transitioning off of like, okay, now it's not just the Mandalorian and the child. It's like we need to change things up, and that just felt so appropriate because we don't know, like we don't get to see Luke post Return of the Jedi, in between that and when he's like sucking on the alien titty in that movie.
Yeah, that was gnarly. I mean, I guess we okay, in legends and in books and comics, there's plenty of stories about Luke in between, definitely. But no, your average Star Wars fan isn't going to dig that deep. So
sure.
And he was bad mother flipper in legends.
Right.
All the stories that I don't even want to go into it, but there's many awesome stories about him that people I wish would dive into, but since they're not, let's just keep it originals, or let's just keep it to the movies or whatever.
Sure. Yeah.
Him coming back in The Mandalorian, I'm like, all right, that was awesome. I don't think it was fan service at all.
Yeah.
We all speculated who, because a lot of people were trying to be like, oh, it's fan service. I'm like, no. Let's put it this way. Grogu made the call on Tython.
Mm-hmm.
Who's gonna come? Ahsoka's not coming. Ahsoka doesn't want to be a Jedi. Ahsoka doesn't even claim to be a Jedi.
Right.
Well, she hinted at a little bit towards the end about Jedi, but that's another conversation.
I think that there's ultimately it's totally incorrect to say that's fan service when you look at something like Solo and they're putting Darth Maul at the very end, and that in my opinion is fan service because there's no actual correlation between that entire movie and Darth Maul in my opinion. But it's like, yeah, you're totally right. It makes sense that. Oh
yeah. I would say you're right, but at the same time, because Maul was running the crime syndicates, and they had what Quinlan Voss was one of the people running.
That's true.
Was it? That's the only reason why I'd be like, okay, Maul showing up, although it's fan service, makes sense. But they made it make sense.
Right. Yeah.
They like forcefully made it make sense because they made Maul become crime lord. So I'm like, okay, yeah, it's fan servicey. But I get why he's here. I get why he's in front of us right now. That makes sense.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah.
But Luke Skywalker for sure was like, who else was going to answer the call? Like, Ezra wasn't going to come.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
He's not even here yet. He's an unknown.
Right.
Luke actively was trying to rebuild the Jedi Order.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's going to be the one, and he's the most powerful right now.
Yeah, he can take on a squad of Death Troopers or CGI Death Troopers.
He's the one coming. He's the one pulling up like to the call.
Yeah.
And so we all tried to be like, who's it gonna be? Who's it gonna be? And like, it's gonna be Luke.
Mm-hmm.
And then sure enough, it was Luke. But the way he came in was beautiful too.
Yeah, all the subtleties on like the choreography, where there's certain things where like I think that the one that I noticed that I was like wow, like just wowed by was the backwards lightsaber block of the blaster.
The Form 4 block.
Yeah.
The Form 4 block. Yeah.
Yeah, that Anakin
or I
did.
believe it's a. Oh yeah, he did that. That was because Anakin was an active.
Yeah.
He was an active Form 4 user.
Yeah.
Who was and so was Luke.
Yep.
I could be. I hope I'm not wrong. I'm pretty sure I'm right on that. But Luke using those moves, I'm like, we didn't get to see that in Return of the Jedi. But also between Return of the Jedi and Mandalorian Season 2, he had all that time to train more.
Definitely, yeah.
And oh boy, did he train! Like, look at him. The way he came in, his movements were so slick. I'm just like,
oh yeah. It was like jazz. He was just flowing through. Yeah.
He was one with the Force. He's a Skywalker. He embraced it in that scene. And also, the thing is, because people were so bummed about how his character was treated in Last Jedi.
Yeah.
I was bummed. You know, I tried to find something I liked out of The Last Jedi. Because being a Star Wars fan, I didn't want to completely hate. It's not that great. Obviously, it's not that. But I tried my best to. I want to find the pro.
Yeah,
in it.
You're trying to give it some time of day, but realistically speaking, like it's more of the director that poo-pooed that entire movie.
Yeah, Rian Johnson. I don't want to talk about.
Yeah, that's a whole other podcast. Just hating on Rian Johnson.
That's a Star Wars podcast that needs to be saved for. But they treated Luke Skywalker's character like dirt. They did him so dirty. So bringing him back for The Mandalorian, where he was in his prime, he was rocking, he was taking out Death Troopers like it was nobody's business.
Mm-hmm.
He was owed that.
Yeah.
He was. They needed to give Mark Hamill that, which I'm glad they did. I'm glad they credited his name. I'm glad they they even CGI'd his face, which was cool. Like I saw a better CGI version on YouTube. But whatever. Yeah. That's Did you see that?
Yeah, I think
someone
is that Corridor Crew?
I can't remember who it was, but someone did.
Yeah, like there's always people who are like, I did a better deep fake than Disney.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
But whatever. They brought back Mark Hamill. They didn't pull what's the person they were trying to get? Sebastian Stan to do it.
Okay.
A lot of people wanted him to be Luke Skywalker or young Luke Skywalker, which if they did a show where they brought back Luke Skywalker, I wouldn't be mad at it.
Yeah,
kind of looks like Sebastian Stan.
I think for an appearance in a movie, like how they did it, I think was very appropriate. But yeah, if you're doing an entire show, you're not gonna do a deep fake for multiple episodes. That will become tiring. It's almost similar to any Netflix movie that I'm like, oh, like what's this about? And as soon as I see it's like dubbed and it's like clearly badly dubbed, I'm like, I don't.
It's hard. It's hard to I don't know. It's hard to watch.
The mental capacity.
And so seeing a deep fake of Luke Skywalker for a whole movie or show where he's in it multiple times I wouldn't be into it. I'd be like, dang, like just get some at that point.
just get someone else that's close enough.
Get Sebastian. Yeah.
Anaiah, the last Star Wars question I'll ask you before we start to wrap up the show.
Cool.
Thoughts on Darth Jar Jar? What do you?
Oh wow, I love it. I'm still about it. And it's, you know what? I would not, the stories and everything just,
The videos and the cases are compelling because he is, it's not like I think the biggest thing that still perplexes me is, and for those that don't know, just pause this podcast, go search Darth Jar Jar and you'll get a load of, videos that explain this. But the fact that he is not like, someone animated his mouth to say this, like, and he's not saying anything. So it's like, is he pulling some strings behind the scene? I don't know, but
he probably is. And I love how in the Clone Wars they poked at him being a Force user so much, or not so much, but they did it a couple of times, like the episode where did they go? They went to what I can't remember the name of the planet. Oh, I feel like such a wacko for not knowing.
No, you're fine.
Him and Padme went on a mission, and he had to save Padme from the Separatists, and he put on the robe, and they thought he was a Jedi. And so I loved that they poked fun at him being a Force user so much. But Darth Jar Jar, I just wish they would just make it canon already. Like they should just pull the trigger and be like, yeah.
I feel like they would just have too much backlash. So it's like all they can do is poke at it and be like, hey, like you're onto something, but
like we hear you, we know you want Darth Jar Jar, but here's fake Jedi Jar Jar saving the day. Like
definitely.
They could easily write a Gungan that ends up becoming a Sith.
Right.
Or they could the timeline goes for so long both directions. All they need to do is there once was a Sith Lord. He was a Gungan, and
Oh man,
he may or may not.
wouldn't that be a treat to have
I would love
some
that.
off story on Book of Boba, and he has to go deal with something. It was like, oh yeah, there was a Sith Lord that was a Gungan. Like, because the Gungans outside of Jar Jar, they don't get a ton of screen time ultimately outside of Phantom Menace. Like, out of all the different species within the Star Wars lore, I feel like they are like some species get entire episodes or multiple episodes dedicated to them. So I think that's very cool. But Gungans, I think, have been shoved under the rug because of the Jar Jar backlash.
They have, and I feel so terrible because that actor was just trying to do his job, and he got to be a part of Star Wars. He got to be a part, he got to be why people hating on that man. I was like, dude, that bummed me out because he never deserved any of that.
Well, he's also like publicly been like, this has affected me like mentally.
Yeah.
Like,
oh, absolutely. And I've seen that. I'm like, dude, it sucks. I'm just like, dude, like he did not deserve that. But you're right, Gungans did not get a lot of, but Gungans have saved the day so many times. Take for instance, they have.
Yeah, it's true.
Gungans on Naboo in episode 1. In Mon Cala, they came to the rescue. The Gungan Grand Army came to the rescue and helped the Mon Cala take over.
Yeah.
They've helped. They've done it. So they don't get enough credit as much as they do,
Right.
They rock in my eyes. I mess with it. And I'm sure somewhere along the lines there's probably been a force sensitive Gungan.
I'm hoping for that. The two things I'm hoping from this podcast are a ZULU hoodie that says flippin' heck or whatever.
What the flippin' heck?
What the flippin' heck? And a force sensitive Gungan. Those are my two asks into the ethos.
If they were able to do a force sensitive hut, which exists, there was a Jedi that was a hut. You may be, people aren't familiar with that, but there was a hut, and he died by the hand of Princess Leia. That was in Legends. But if they can do a force sensitive hut, there's got to be so many force sensitive Gungan.
For sure. Yeah.
And they already have natural jump, and like they can do all these crazy like moves. So
yeah,
we just need one for lightsaber.
It would just be like Yoda flipping, but just on steroids. Like just Gungan flips all damn day.
Dude.
Well, Anaiah, this has been really fun. I'm glad that we got to like dive so deep into Star Wars, but also talk about the stuff that you got going on music wise. The last section.
This was fun.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad. I'm glad that you were so down to come on. And,
dude.
And be one of the first guests that we'll be sharing for season 2, and the first returning guest. And when I was thinking of returning guests, you were top of the list. So.
Thank you. I'm happy to be back on. This was super fun.
Yeah.
And anytime getting to talk about Star Wars is just like I'm all about, and I'll do it any given day. I'll do it at any time of day. So, but I'm glad. But thank you though for having me back. This was fun.
The last section, and I realized on the last time we had a podcast we didn't hit on this, so I'm really excited to be doing this for the first time on the second recording. A favorite mosh story that you would like to end on. So that could really be anything off the top of your head. Could be something that happened to you, something that you saw at one of the shows you were playing. Whatever's kind of the first thing is kind of how we end off.
Oh, okay. I have a couple that I've,
I feel like you can share two in the sense that I didn't ask you that question the first time we recorded. So
okay. There's too many good ones, but I guess. All right, there's one time I can't remember who was playing, but I was in the pit and I almost got spun kicked in the face, and the person next to me got knocked out, but I was like an inch away and I stepped, and the person knocked out and started to have a seizure, and I was like, oh my gosh, shit. That was literally would have been me. Like I would have been the one knocked out.
Damn. That's crazy.
Second, I don't even know if this counts for a mosh story, but I guess it does. I was in Columbus, Ohio, watching. I was at a festival and Jesus Piece was playing.
Okay.
And I was doing stage dives, but they weren't really stage dives. I was just flipping and bringing my leg down and kicking whoever was on the stage. So like, I'll send you the. I'll find the footage. But and I was playing with a band at the time that I no longer play with, and so it was before the set. So I was doing that, kicking all these people, and security grabbed me and tried to throw me out of the festival before I played. And I was like, I'm supposed to be here. Like, I was like,
bro.
they were like, you're spin kicking people. I'm like, I'm not spin kicking, I'm stage diving. They're like, no, you are. I'm like, oh well, yeah, technically I am just stage diving, kicking people.
It's
like,
a combination of both.
It's the combo of like
right.
flipping and trying to. Yeah, I was doing that.
Letting gravity do its thing. Yeah.
Letting gravity do its
thing.
thing.
I understand the visual. Yeah.
And they tried to kick me out. I guess I probably have way more better stories than this, but this is the first one that I can think of.
Yeah.
Because I was doing that so much that I did a stage dive and I kicked a PA that was on one of the floating PAs.
Oh, I see.
And I hurt the back of my foot, and it was hurt for a long time.
Oh,
so I was in.
You had to play with.
I had to play on a hurt foot, which is fine. I was able to do it.
Sure.
But it hurt for like another. Oh my gosh, it was a couple months.
Oh damn!
And I just never said anything. I was just like, I'm fine. But
yeah,
thanks to Jesus Piece.
Yeah.
Thanks to Jesus Piece,
It's always the Jesus Piece pits that are just the most crazy. Like I'm thinking of a couple past mosh stories that have been shared, and it's always like a Jesus Piece show where something ridiculous happens.
It's because anytime their music comes on, you just can't help but want to go off.
Yeah.
You can't help but want, you can't help but want to just hit people that don't deserve it. They have that effect.
Man, that's funny. Yeah.
They have that effect. I miss seeing them play. The last time I saw them play was in Jersey at what was it, Back to School Jam.
Oh yeah.
And
yeah.
I guess this is a fun this is the third one, and Payback played that show.
Mm-hmm.
And their drummer couldn't make it. So they were talking to me and Lewis from Jesus Piece about splitting up the set.
Yeah.
So that I'd played two Payback songs and he played two Payback songs, but we take turns getting in the pit for. So like the two songs I played, he'd be in, and the two songs he played, I was in. Because I wanted to watch Payback. I was like, I don't want to play drums. I want to just I just want to get in the pit and like throw down. But when will I ever get to play drums for Payback? So that was one show. There's no footage of it. No pictures or anything.
Oh no.
Which bums me out because it was the one time where me and Lewis got to be a part of Payback.
Man, I love that shit, honestly. I remember this is Wild Rose 2018, so the year before Jesus Piece played. But Prowl was on tour with Stepping Stone and their drummer quit.
Oh, heck yeah.
So Ross played two songs, and then Luke, who does vocals, also played drums, and he did the other two songs. So I love personally as an archivist to be able to see those like one-offs of like, hey, this is the Prowl set with two members of Stepping Stone playing drums. So
that's sick as heck. Like that's like those things are awesome. Yes. I love that stuff to get into. It's fun. It's like collaborative. It's unity in a sense. It's a and I just hate that that footage doesn't exist. It's just in my mind. Like we took a picture actually. There's a picture of like the Payback members with me and Lou in it,
but not like Payback of it happening. So
no, and I was like,
if there's anyone listening who feels like that, like for me in my soul, that pains me so much that was a missed opportunity. Dude. And there's so many missed opportunities in hardcore as far as documenting. Like there's not a Hate 5-6 person in every single state in the States.
Not at all.
Document it.
Sucks because it was
whether it's how weird it is.
If anybody has footage of the New Jersey after show at Back to School Jam in 2019, send it through because me and Lou played in Payback. Someone has to have something, but people were going off, so I also could see no one having footage because everyone was just throwing down and like
and getting kicked in the face or
getting
whatever.
Kicked in the face. But
that's funny.
Great times. Great times.
I appreciate all those stories, Anaiah. All your social handles and band links and all that will be in the description of the video.
Awesome.
But
Thank
if
you
there's
so much.
anything you want to plug before we officially wrap up, the floor is yours for whatever you got.
Once again, thank you again for having me. This was awesome. I had such a great time
Of course,
talking about all that stuff. Always. New Day record coming out soon.
Yeah.
And ZULU announcement coming out soon for something. So, and then
Awesome.
pretty much it right now. Thank you,
Yeah,
Dan.
all of Anaiah's stuff will be in the show notes and all that. Anaiah, you're someone that I really see creating a lot of meaningful music and just sick music. So I really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you.
And may the force be with you. I feel like that's...
May the force be with you. Thank you so much.